Hi friends, today we'll go through mineral nutrition in plants. It will be covered in two parts. Part first will cover the essential elements, criteria of essentiality, macronutrients, their role and deficiency symptoms. So first of all, we'll have to understand what we mean by the mineral nutrition in plants. By definition is the absorption of mineral ions by plants from soil and their subsequent utilization for their growth and development. That means it involves the absorption of mineral ions by the plants from the soil and their utilization for their growth and development. You know, modern agricultural yield strongly depends on the fertilization of the soil. It has been experimentally found that there is a correlation between the high agricultural yield and also the fertilization of the soil. So there are certain critical elements which are important for this agricultural yield. These include NPK, the nitrogen, phosphorus, which is in the form of phosphates, and potassium as potash. So these are the three critical elements which is often added to the soil to have a good fertilization of the soil. As we know, the crop yield is dependent upon the fertilization of the soil. You'll see world consumption of NPK have increased steadily from 112 million metric tons in 1980 to 143 metric tons in 1990. There is always a substantial increase. World consumption of NPK is estimated to reach 186.67 million tons in 2016. It has already reached to that level in 2016. And with an average annual growth of 1.9%, it's expected to reach 201.66 million tons by the end of 2020. So there is always a linear correlation between the crop yield and the amount of fertilizers absorbed by the plant. Though crop plants efficiently use less than half of the applied fertilizers, while the rest is getting leached to the soil or leached to the water bodies, where it results in the eutrophication of the water bodies. That is the mineral loading of the water bodies. So all the fertilizers, the fertilizers which are added to the soil, only 50% of that is utilized by the crop for their growth and development. If you will see the world demand of fertilizer nutrient use 2015 to 2020 in 1000 tons, you will see yourself in 2015 NPK demand was this 184.017. In 2016 it has reached to 186. In 2017 it's increasing. 2018 it has reached 194 million tons, 1000 tons. It has reached here 198, and then 2020 it is this. The source is the Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations, Rome 2017. So as per the estimates, we see that fertilizer demand throughout the world is increasing because these are the critical elements, essential elements and critical elements for the growth and development of the plant. So plants we can define as the miners of Earth's crust, where they are taking mineral ions and are recycling them into the biosphere, predominantly through their root system. It's because of these plants we take out the plants which take out the mineral ions from the soil. If you take a plant contains numerous mineral elements. Suppose you take a dry plant pot and you are heating it or its parts at 600 degrees Celsius in a crucible. What you will find, the organic matter dissociates. What remains there is the ash, that is the inorganic ash. And if you analyze that inorganic ash by either by conventional method or by atomic spectrophotometry, you will find there are present 60 elements. Out of these 60 elements, 30 elements are of universal occurrence, whereas 16 are essential. Others are non-essential in nature. The non-essentials like silicon, cobalt, sodium, vanadium, etc. are also called as the beneficial elements because they take part in some specific reactions in limited number of plants. So that means plants act as the miners on the earth's crust. They are taking all these elements from the soil. And what are the essential elements? Let us understand why we call them as essential elements. What is the criteria of the essentiality? Essential elements as a definition are essentially required by the plants for their growth and development. They include carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, sulfur, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, calcium, iron, copper, boron, zinc, manganese, molybdenum, and chlorine. Criteria of essentiality was proposed by Ernon and Stout in 1939, wherein he said that those elements whose deficiency will prevent the completion of a life cycle in a plant. Without that element, life cycle will not be completed. That will be an essential element, which cannot be substituted by other element with similar properties. We cannot substitute it, which is directly involved in the metabolism of the plant. Lack of element will cause a disorder, which can only be rectified by the addition of the same element. That means it is essentially required, it cannot be substituted, it has a direct role in the metabolism of the plant. Suppose we have a magnesium ion, for example, is a core element of chlorophyll molecule and is required as a cofactor by enzymes involved in phosphate transfer. Thus, magnesium ion is essentially required for such functions and cannot be substituted by any other element. We cannot substitute the chlorophyll with any other element as a core element except the magnesium. That means magnesium is an essential element. So this is the criteria of essentiality. Before we go through the mineral elements, let's understand what is difference between the mobile elements and the immobile elements. See, as the name signifies, the nutrients which move throughout the plant body are, when absorbed, are translocated throughout the plant body. They move from one place to another place. They are redistributed. Their deficiency symptoms are seen in older and lower leaves because they go from soil to the older leaves and from that they are distributed to the other leaves. They do not show deficiency in the younger leaves because nutrients are transported to the younger leaves. Example is nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and magnesium. These are the mobile elements. So their deficiency symptoms will be seen in the older or the lower leaves. Immobile elements are those nutrients which do not move throughout the plant. They accumulate in one place and do not translocate, move in a very small distance. The deficiency of such element is first seen in younger leaves. Examples are boron, copper, calcium, chlorine, cobalt, iron, manganese, molybdenum, silicon, sulfur, and zinc. Can be explained by this diagram also. If we see the mobile elements in the soil, they are taken by the elements from the soil, by the roots, and from roots it goes into the leaves. They are deposited in the leaves. From soil they are deposited in the lower leaves, and from here they are taken and translocated to the other leaves, and from here they are translocated to the other leaves. Now whenever there is a deficiency symptom, there is a deficiency in the soil of this element, it will be prevalent because it goes first into the older leaves and younger leaves will not be affected. But vice versa in case of the immobile elements, because immobile elements are directly taken here, they are directly taken here, they are taken from soil to this. That means whenever there is a deficiency in the soil, the new leaves which are formed, they will show the deficiency symptoms. This is very important to understand the difference between the immobile elements, because in deficiency symptoms you will mention some of the symptoms are related only in the older leaves, some are in the younger leaves. That is in relation to the mobility and the immobility of the mineral elements. There are some deficiency related terminology. Before we will go through the deficiency symptoms, let us understand one is the chlorosis. Chlorosis means yellowing of leaves due to degeneration of chlorophyll. There will be degeneration of chlorophyll and the leaf instead of green will turn yellow. Necrosis will be localized death of tissue, especially in leaves. Mottling means appearance of green and non-green areas in a leaf. There will be a dotted print. There will be yellow as well as green. Leaf curls, abnormal curling of leaves due to unequal growth. Normally leaf expands uniformly, but in leaf curls you will see an abnormal, due to unequal growth there will be an abnormal curling. Abscission, premature fall of flowers, fruits and leaves. Wilting, drooping of leaves due to loss in turgor. Internal heart rot, internal softening of tissue due to their disintegration. Exanthema, or which is also called as the dieback, twigs dieback. That is from the tips there is the death of the twigs taking place. Burning of leaf margins, chlorosis, and bark exuding gummy substances. This is often seen in the soils where you have they are reclamation soils where you have a copper deficiency. Whiptail is withering of lamina and the midrib persists as a whiptail. Reclamation disease, tightly rolled leaves with white tips abundant in reclaimed soils. These are some of the deficiency related terminology which we will encounter during the deficiency symptoms. So you can see this is an intraveinal chlorosis. How leaf instead of yellow is instead of green is yellow and has a midrib which is green in color. This is chlorosis. There can be necrotic spots. These are formed here. There can be mottling of the leaves as in case of the apple seedling. There can be the curling of the leaves as is seen in the peach. Exanthema means there is a dieback of these. The terminal tips, terminal leaves are dying, and it is because of the copper deficiency. Normal leaf is this. Under the whiptail there will be a loss of lamina and there will be a tail-like structure as is because of the molybdenum deficiency. So these are some of the deficiency related terminologies. Now let's understand how they have been classified. Essential elements have been classified. Classification of essential elements is on the basis of their utilization, based on the quantity in which they are required by plants. Hoagland 1944 classified them into two, macronutrients and the micronutrients. As the macronutrient word term is the work frame elements, they are bodybuilding elements. They are required in large concentrations, at least 1 milligram per gram of a dry matter. They are usually involved in synthesis of organic molecules and they are the protoplasmic constituents. Important part participate in the synthesis of the protoplasmic constituents, helps in build of a plant body. They are essential for development and osmotic potential in cell sap. These include carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium and calcium. Except carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, all are the mineral in origin. So we have macronutrients and micronutrients are called as the trace elements because they are usually less than 1 milligrams per gram of the dry matter. They are required in plants in very small traces. They mostly act as the cofactors or the activators of the enzymes. They're essential for functioning of the enzymes. These include iron, zinc, manganese, copper, molybdenum, chlorine. Brown et al. 1987 have added nickel to this list also. So these are called as the microelements. Let us discuss, there is one more classification which is based on their biochemical role and physiological functions. This has been proposed in 1987. According to this, plant nutrients have been divided into four basic groups. Group 1, nutrients that are a part of carbon compound. Example, nitrogen and sulfur. Group 2, nutrients important in energy storage or structural integrity, phosphorus and silicon. Group 3, nutrients that remain in ionic forms, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, manganese and sodium. Group 4, nutrients that are involved in redox reactions which have an oxidative and reductive properties, iron, zinc, copper, nickel and molybdenum. So this has been the classification, but here we are not concerned with the classification on the basis of biochemical role and physiological functions. Here we will be discussing only the macronutrients and the micronutrients. So first of all, we'll discuss the role and deficiency symptoms of essential elements in plants. We will start with the macronutrients. First nutrient is the nitrogen. Now you have to understand what is the role of the nitrogen. Then alone you can understand the visual deficiency symptoms. You see, nitrogen is in available form nitrate and nitrite. They are absorbed in these two forms. They have a specific role, an important constituent of amino acids, proteins, enzymes, nucleic acids, porphyrin of chlorophyll, cytochromes, auxins, cytokinins, few vitamins, and most coenzymes. That means they have a role to play in the formation of the chlorophyll. They have the role to play in the formation of the proteins as well as the enzymes as well as the nucleic acids. So what will be the first deficiency symptom if nitrogen is less in the soil? It causes yellowing, that is chlorosis of the older levels. Now you should understand here it is a mobile element. That is why symptoms are first seen in the older levels. And you will also see a V-patterned yellowing in corn, starting at tips, spreading to base. Light green leaves, when chlorophyll is not formed, the first symptom will be instead of dark green, there will be a light green leaves. And in extreme cases, that will result further, it will go for the yellowing of the leaf, complete leaf. Plant growth is slow because there is less formation of the carbohydrates. Plants will be stunted. There will be less growth in case of the plants. In addition to this, you will find in such plants there is one more thing taking place, that is the early maturation and flowering. Because whenever nitrogen has a role to play, see in case of why we say the early maturation and flowering, soil, if it is having a very low nitrogen, that will favor the plant to move from the vegetative phase to the reproductive phase. There will be a shortening of the vegetative phase. As a result, the flowering will be formed there. It can be an advantageous position that whenever there is a shortening of a vegetative phase and prolonging of the reproductive phase, it has been found plant flowering in low nitrogen soils. See, when there is you have to be very accurate in adding the nitrogen to the soils. If there is a low nitrogen in the soil, that will lead to, there is a mechanism has been revealed by Mahio Senagai et al. In 2021, Hokkaido University, Proceedings of National Academy of Science, is these findings could lead to increase in agriculture production. That means, though to certain vegetables it will be a disadvantage because early maturation, there will be a less vegetative phase. Immediately it will be followed by the reproductive phase. But in case of crops, it has been found to be advantageous if there is a low nitrogen, and it can be a game changer also. And also there is a reduced crop yield and it is quality, because nitrogen has an important role to play in it. And when such thing is happening, there is deficiency in the nitrogen, there will be a reduced crop yield, and because it's a critical element, and it is quality also reduced. And in addition to this, you will see petiole and veins become red or purple, since there is a accumulation of carbohydrates. A faulty mechanism is there, and carbohydrates are not converted in further converted. So what will happen? There will be a production of the glucose which is there will combine with certain flavonoid anthocyanins. As a result, these anthocyanin glycosides are red or purple pigments, and you will find petiole and veins, in addition to the chlorosis, will be red or purple in color. So there is also, under nitrogen deficiency conditions, intensive root growth also call it as the forage response to nitrogen starvation. And excessive deep penetration, because roots will go very deep into the soil, and there can be in roots closing of the aquapores resulting in shoot water stress. That's why there will be a stunted shoot growth also, because nitrogen plays a very important role, and whenever there is a closing of the aquapores, there will be less water available and there will be stunted shoot growth also. So that means the first and the foremost symptom in case of it is the yellowing, as well as having a purple or the red colored midribs or the veins, in addition to the other symptoms also. It can be seen in case of a nitrogen deficiency. You will see here this way, the lower portion is going in the form of a V pattern, and these are the lower leaves which turns yellow. And in case of lemon, you will see there is the fading, this is the dark, this is light, and then ultimately turns into yellow color. These are the chlorosis. And you will see in case of vein, the central veins will become red or purple colored, and there will be an chlorosis, and the chlorosis will go this way, and there will be a weak lower leaf. It is moving from tip to the downwards. You will see in case of the nitrogen deficiency in the corn field, the yellowing of the leaves, and the lower leaves then ultimately turn. This is the patch where you can see the deficiency has prominent there. This is the nitrogen deficiency. This is in case of the corn. So this was about the first element, that is called as the nitrogen. Now you have the phosphorus. Phosphorus is available form is phosphoric acid. It has a specific role. It's an important constituent of nucleic acid, phospholipids, coenzymes, NAD, NADP, and ATP, because phosphate is everywhere. Cell membrane formation, it plays a role. Phospholipids are there. Important role in oxidation, reduction, energy transfer reactions. Carbohydrate metabolism, it plays an important role. Protein synthesis, photosynthesis, and respiration, the phosphorus plays a key role there. And they are energy transfer and also in storage. They play a role in energy transfer because ADP with inorganic phosphate will form an ATP. So energy transfer as well as the storage. So phosphorus as the element has a very important role in case of the energy related processes. Now, what are the deficiency symptoms? You will see again there will be faulty metabolism, carbohydrate metabolism. There can be accumulation, and that will result in the purple or the red coloration of the older leaves on the lower side. Leaves may turn dark green to blue green in color. Reduction in leaf expansion, leaf area, and number of leaves, because there is a retarded growth, and that retarded growth will be seen in the leaves also. It causes early abscission of leaves, possibly because when the amino acids which are there are in an inactive form and they are not used for the protein synthesis, there is an accumulation or the availability of more of the methionine which is freely available, and methionine is considered as a precursor of the ethylene, and that ethylene is important. When there is an accumulation of the ethylene, ethylene is responsible for the abscission. So there will be an early abscission of the leaves. Plant growth slow and stunted, because when there is no protein formed, when there is no protein synthesis, the amino acids are not activated and energy is not available there, and the growth is stunted. It leads to slow maturation of fruit, because for maturation of the fruit, respiration is very important. For respiration, phosphates are very important. So there is a slow maturation of the fruit. Dead necrotic spots developed on leaves or fruits also. So you will see phosphorus deficiency can be seen here. Phosphorus deficiency can be seen on the margins. On the lower side of this, there can be necrotic spots developed on the lower side of the leaves. These are the deficiency symptoms of the phosphorus. You can see the phosphorus deficiency prevalent also on the margins, and it is here also in case of the pepper or the tomato plant also. Here in case of the tiger lily, you will see the prominent phosphate deficiency evident there, and in case of the brassica and some leaves, you will find this is the deficiency of the phosphorus, or this is the deficiency of the phosphorus in leaves of this plant. So that means phosphorus deficiency will be seen evident on the margins of the plants. The third element, which is called as the potassium. Potassium is called as the gatekeeper nutrient because its available form is potassium carbonate. It has a specific role. It maintains optimal osmotic potential of cells. Helps in stomatal movements, because we have understood that there is a potassium which is playing a very important role in case of the potassium. It has a role in the stomatal opening and closing, and it has a role in the chlorophyll formation. And in addition to this, it activates two important enzymes, pyruvate kinase, which is responsible for respiration, and peptidyl transferase for protein synthesis, role in energy transfer, nitrogen fixation and reduction, and lignin formation. So it is also called as the gatekeeper nutrient. It is responsible for optimizing the osmotic potential of the cell. Now, what are the deficiency symptoms of it? First deficiency symptom, which you will see, the browning of the leaf edges. That means these leaf edges will be browned. Browning of the leaf edges. Edges will look burned, also known as scorching. Now you see there is a reason for it. When the stomata is not opened during low potassium concentration, and there is less of the turgidity in the plant, more of the heat load in the plant, because the stomata are closed, and it results in the more heat load, and since it is on the margins, you will see the scorching or the burning has taken place. And it causes mottled chlorosis of the older leaves also. Dark necrotic spots at tips and margins of the older leaves. Plant become roseate due to shortening of internodes. So, because whenever there is a potassium deficiency, and due to that potassium deficiency, there will be inactive pyruvate kinase. Pyruvate kinase is responsible for what? It is responsible for the respiration. And whenever there is no respiration, there will be an accumulation of more carbohydrates. When that accumulation is taking place in the meristematic areas, the meristematic growth stops and retards. And also, due to inactive peptidyl transferase, there is no protein synthesis. That protein synthesis and no respiration will result in the stunting or the roseate forming or the shortening of the internodes, and there is fruit production low with poor quality, and plants lodge easily due to the poor stalk strength, because it has a role to play in the lignin also. These are the symptoms of the potassium deficiency which is evident on the margins. There can be dark necrotic spots at the margins and tips, as can be a scorching here on the margins due to potassium deficiency in case of tomato. Also in case of the tea leaves, there will be deficiency symptoms here, and you can see the deficiency symptoms also on the ripening of the tomato. That's called the blotchy ripening on tomatoes. And in case of this potassium deficiency can be seen on the lower side of the tomato fruit. Also, one more thing is taking place, that there is a poor fleshy texture of tomato, as well as there is a precocious seed germination. That is, seeds germinate while they are within the fruit. This is because of the potassium deficiency. So we have seen the deficiency of the potassium. We are moving now to sulfur. So the deficiency symptoms are almost related to the specific roles. When that role is not being performed in the plant, you will see such types of the symptoms. So you are well versed with the sulfur. Available form sulfates, Specific role is a constant of two amino acids, cysteine and methionine. And sometimes there is a disulfide bridge formed between the two amino acids that leads to the stability of the tertiary structure of the proteins. It is essential for formation of chlorophyll binding proteins. Chlorophyll binding proteins. It occurs in the form of glycosides, namely thiocyanates and isothiocyanates. That is because in mustard, garlic and onion, you have a pungent odor. That is because of these glycosides. So you have a glycoside, they have a sulfur in it. Suppose cinegrin is a glycoside which imparts pungent odor to the black mustard. There is one more, cinalbin. Albin is also glucoside, which imparts pungent odor to the white mustard. This odor is basically a prevention for the prevention of the herbivory, because they are not taken by the herbivorous animals. In addition to this, if you will see within the onion, when you cut the onion, you find a tear promoting substance coming out of it. That is propanethyl sulfonic oxide. It is a sulfur compound. When it comes in contact with the eyes, lacrimal glands, it causes the tear formations. So sulfur is a constituent of vitamins, biotin, vitamin H, and thiamine, vitamin B1. Sulfur is a constituent of ferredoxin, lipoic acid, coenzyme A, and therefore plays an important role in cell metabolism, because these all are responsible for the cell metabolism. Sulfur groups are necessary for the activity of many enzymes. It has a role in nodule formation in legumes, helpful in lignin and sterol biosynthesis. The sulfur as an element has a very important role. So let us understand what their deficiency symptoms. The first of all, since it's associated with the chlorophyll binding protein, it causes general chlorosis in young leaves. So you can understand it is an immobile element. Prominent intervenial chlorosis and stems, because in the veins, intervenal areas, more chlorophyll is accumulated. Since there is less formation of the chlorophyll, it will be more prominent in the intervenal areas. Stem becomes hard due to reduced meristematic activity and leads to leaf curl, and their edges and tips turn brown. Stems and roots remain slender because there is no carbohydrate metabolism going on. Poor nodulation and reduced nitrogen fixation in legumes, because they play a role in the nodulation formation as well as the fixation of the nitrogen. So whenever there is a deficiency of the sulfur, these things will happen in the plant. You can see the sulfur deficiency taking place in the younger leaves, which are at the tip, sulfur deficiency in the tea, sulfur deficiency in case of the corn, sulfur deficiency it will result in the leaf curl. It can be seen in the cannabis, and the younger leaves are affected. And you will see intervenial, because it's taking place between the veins, because sulfur is responsible for the binding of the chlorophyll plus protein, and the deficiency is becoming evident within these intervenial areas. In addition to this, sulfur is causing a prominent disease, deficiency disease, that's called as the sulfur yellow, or it is called as the yellow disease, or it is also named as tea yellows, a disease in tea plants. It is characterized by progressive degeneration of bush. Leaves become small and chlorotic. And you know, tea is a plant which has a leaves, especially the terminal leaves, which are considered as the finest grade tea. Those leaves, it affects those leaves. Leaves become small and chlorotic. Necrosis of leaf margins and tips. Uprolling or cupping of leaves, and stiff texture and rapid defoliation. So that means there's a progressive degeneration of a bush. The tea plant is a bushy plant. It's losing because whenever there is a loss of the terminal bud, the apical bud, terminal bud, the axillary side buds, they prematurely germinate, and then they are lost there. As it is, there is a progressive degeneration of the bush, and loss of terminal buds leads to a loss of finest grade tree, because it is these three leaves, unfurled leaves, which are considered as the finest tree grade. So tea yellow or the sulfur yellow is caused by the deficiency of the sulfur in the soil. You can see this is the normal and the healthy tea plantation. These are the terminal leaves, they are green in color. But here you will see the chlorosis has taken place there. There is the curling has taken place there. This is the sulfur deficient tea bush in Malawi. Credit goes to this person. So sulfur deficiency affects the tea plants, causing a tea yellow. One more element which is called as the calcium now. Calcium available form calcium ions. Calcium, as you know, is an important constituent, important for the synthesis of middle lamina. As a calcium pactate, it has a role to play in the cell membrane, permeability of the cell membrane, selective permeability of the cell membrane. Is a cofactor of alpha aminase, ATPase, phosphorylase, essential for carbohydrate metabolism, activator of succinate dehydrogenase in Krebs cycle, a component of oxygen evolving system of photosynthesis. It acts as a second messenger in metabolic regulation. It needs a protein, colmogulin, it is dependent on that, because as a second messenger plays a role in binding nucleic acids and proteins in chromosomes, helps in synthesis of mitotic spindle formation. So you see, if you will see the role of the calcium, that is directly related with the division of the plant, division of the cells, and growth of the plant and growth of the leaves. And there will be less calcium pactate that can result in the leakiness of the fruits, or there will be a disorganization of the compactness will be lost there. What are the deficiency symptoms now? First of all, there will be death of meristematic region of the root, stem and leaves. Why? Because there will be fragility of the chromosomes. Spindle formations will not be there, so there will not be a proper divisioning, and there will be a death of the meristematic cell. Plants may be severely stunted, because when there is no growth taking place, typical the terminal growth is not taking place, so they will be stunted. Young leaves show marginal and apical withering, so it is taking place here, and margins. Downward hooking of young leaves. Chlorotic patches, there will be some, see, these are the yellow chlorotic patches. Chlorotic patches along the margins and the intervenial area, along the margins as well as the intervenial areas. So these are the yellow or the chlorotic patches. Margins and intervenial areas of the younger leaves. Necrosis, so you should understand it's not a mobile element. Necrosis of root and young leaf tips. Distortion of younger leaves. See, in case of corn leaf tips, there is one more deficiency which is seen in the corn. Whenever there is a leaf tips which are affected, the one leaf tip will stick to the next lower leaf, creating a ladder-like appearance. Leads to a blossom end rot in tomato. That is, the tomato shows a rotting at the portions of the developing fruit. Soft nose disease in mango. Breakdown of flesh towards apex before ripening. There is a bitter pit in apple, which is due to low levels of calcium in fruit and poor distribution of calcium during fruit development. Blossom end rot of tomato. Soft, dead, necrotic tissue at rapidly growing areas. Poor translocation of calcium to the tissue. Premature falling of flowers and the fruits. So these are the very serious symptoms. As you can see here, this is a calcium deficiency. The fruit will appear like this and rot in the grape, tomato. This will have a rotting here. There is a calcium deficiency. Or there can be a soft nose in mango. Here there will be a softening of this portion. Or there can be a bitter pit in apple. You will see a brown patch here, which will be bitter in taste, and it can appear externally as a brown patches also. or you can see in case corm, the upper leaf and the lower leaf tip is now stick to this, and then this just it forms a ladder-like situation in case of the corn. And the calcium deficiency can be also seen in these leaves as interveinal chlorosis or necrotic spots. And next element is the magnesium now. Magnesium is in magnesium ions. It has a specific role, a core element of the chlorophyll. And that is magnesium at the center and four porphyrin rings are with it. It forms the chlorophyll. It has a role in the formation of the carotenoids, plays an important role in photosynthesis and carbohydrate metabolism. Magnesium is essential for activity of ribose 1,5-bisphosphate carboxylase, which is a very important enzyme in fixation of carbon dioxide. Activates enzymes involved in synthesis of nucleic acid, DNA, RNA. Role in binding ribosomal subunit during protein synthesis, because two subunits under particular magnesium concentration, they together form the ribosomes when two subunits come together. A component of magnesium pectinate in middle lamella, as a cofactor in the synthesis of glycerol, fat metabolism, activator of sulfur hydryl containing enzymes, role in transport of phosphorus, role in translocation of starch. So it has a very important role to play in the plant. Whenever there is a deficiency of the magnesium, these symptoms will be prevalent. There will be interveinal chlorosis of older leaves with distinct green veins, purpling of older leaves, and there will be an inverted V-shaped green areas around midrib at the leaf base. Rest of the leaf is with chlorosis. Dead necrotic spots appear on the leaves. Defoliation of lower leaves. Reduced vegetative and reproductive growth. Underdevelopment of pith and phloem. Yellow to white interveinal beading or striping of older leaves. Shortening of internodes. These are some of the deficiency symptoms which can be seen here. Interveinal chlorosis. There can be the purpling of interveinal, or there can be a beading also. White beads are formed there. And there can be the magnesium deficiency will be seen, the patches of the chlorotic patches near the veins. These yellow are the patches of the chlorotic patches. And it can be seen in the leaves also, or you can have the magnesium deficiency felt in the fruits of the tomatoes, as fruit show greenbacks. There will be these areas which will be green in color. So these are some of the deficiencies related with the magnesium. And I hope we have gone through the macro elements. Here I have given you to understand what are the essential elements, what is the criteria of essentiality, what are the roles of these elements, and when the deficiency is prevalent either in the soil or in the distribution of the within the plants, such and such symptoms are taking place. I hope you have understood, and it will definitely help you to understand the mineral nutrition. And in next video we will be covering the micronutrients that will throw more light on the micro elements or the trace elements. Till then, be happy and be safe. Thank you for the patient listening.